Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox. It is 12:30 on the East Coast and 9:30 on the West Coast. My name is Josh Breslow, and I'm here for the next several hours as we break down all of your top stories and live events from across the country and across the world. I do want to get you right back into some of the big stories that we are covering at this hour, and this is one that we've seen developing over the past several months as President Trump says that a regime change in Iran, quote, would be the best thing that could happen. His administration continues to weigh military action against Iran as nuclear talks are expected to continue next week. The president also confirming that he's deployed a second aircraft carrier group to the Middle East. Again, we do have all of this kind of developing here, and we heard from President Trump as he was asked about it just yesterday.
What can Iran do to avoid attack?
Give us the deal that they should have given us the first time. If they give us the right deal, we won't do that. But, you know, historically, they haven't done that. I will say they want to talk, but so far they do a lot of talking and no action. They've already started.
Do you want regime change in Iran?
Well, it seems like that would be the best thing that could happen. For 47 years, they've been talking and talking and talking. In the meantime, we've lost a lot of lives while they talk, and legs blown off, arms blown off, faces blown off. It's been going on for a long time, so let's see what happens. In the meantime, we have tremendous power has arrived, and additional power, as you know, another carrier is going out shortly. So we'll see it how if we could get it settled for once and for all, that would be good.
All right, I do want to bring in a good friend of the show here. We have Jonathan Saye with the Foundation for Defense of Democracy's Iran program. Jonathan, as always, thank you so much for being here with us.
Hi, Josh. It's great to be with you again.
And of course, we talked about and just heard about President Trump speaking about this aircraft carrier, the second one that is now over or at least headed to the Middle East. What do you make of that? Is that essentially sending a warning signal to Iran?
Yes, it is, and it's not any warning signal. So this directly expresses this administration's willingness to have a military campaign that would go beyond Operation Midnight Hammer. As we saw in last June, the United States Air Force was able to take out many centrifuges of the regime's nuclear program. But the buildup here suggests that this wave, if it were to actually materialize, it would go beyond selective targeting. It would be an extensive campaign, realistically going beyond just nuclear, going after ballistic missiles, of course, the repression apparatus that has been killing Iranian protesters, and potentially decapitation of key leaders, such as the supreme leader and different military officials that are high-ranking.
With the U.S. and Iran planning this second round of nuclear talks in Geneva next week, what are some potential realistic outcomes? That's something that a lot of people are asking because you see, these aircraft carriers that are being deployed. So it leads to questions as to whether there is going to be any real discussion here or if President Trump's mind has been made up. What should we expect to happen if the talks don't work out?
So there is a real discussion taking place, meaning Washington has expressed its willingness to resolve this issue diplomatically. That said, everything is mirroring May 2025 of last year, the Rome negotiations. Again, the ball was in Tehran's court. They refused to provide concessions. On the other hand, Washington kept its red line of zero enrichment. But again, we saw what happened with that. So realistically, what we would see after the second round this time is, again, similar tactics of Tehran stalling, dragging out as much as they can, trying to delay a potential strike, while also having their very seasoned diplomats send contradictory messages that would, again, facilitate this talk to go on longer than it should. On one hand, they express willingness to compromise, but once it actually comes down to the details, they kind of backtrack what they originally said. That's what we're going to see. But I would highlight one last thing on that is that even given that the Rome negotiations did not go well by any standards, still we did not hear official negative comments coming from this administration, which probably we're going to see the same one again. So we have to really differentiate between the leaks that we hear and the official statements, because again, as we've seen, even though there might be neutrality coming from this administration publicly, in the back, there might be different operations brewing.
And we're not seeing the same type of protests that we've seen across Iran that we saw weeks and weeks ago. Things appear to have maybe died down a little bit there, but we know that at least, according to officials who are involved with the protests, at least 7,000 people were killed, though that number could actually be a lot higher. How does that kind of unrest and the protests impact the Iranian regime's kind of stronghold there and give the U.S. maybe a little more leverage?
That is the biggest leverage the United States has ever had against the Islamic Republic. And that is only one pillar of the weaknesses of the regime. Of course, domestic unrest continues to be the main one, but it is not entirely accurate to characterize what's going on in Iran as a protest movement. It's a movement greater than that. It's not just limited to protests. Even though the protests to an extent have fizzled out, we still see a new wave emerging, especially in the forms of funeral of those who have been killed by the regime. There's other acts of civil disobedience going on. But really what set this wave apart is the fact that it has a leader. It's been being really managed and led by the crown prince, who doesn't have a day after plan and has been in touch with the people and folks on the ground. So what really sets this apart is the fact that Iranians have chosen what alternatives they want to the Islamic Republic. And once Washington starts to engage this administration, this opposition that is inherently legitimate by the people, of course, they have great ties to the Iranian civil society, that signals the most perhaps dangerous thing to the Islamic Republic, which is not only you're about to be overthrown, but we already have a day after scenario on how to replace you and how to conduct. So that really should be the main focus here. But that said, again, the opposition should be chosen by the Iranian people, and it has been the case. So it's not the administration's job to really designate a certain opposition to engage with or not. It's really about how we can move forward with leveraging what's happening on the ground right now.
What about mediators like Oman and Turkey? How do they factor into all of this? And what is maybe for them there to gain by potentially helping out between the U.S. and Iran and trying to negotiate something?
We have to get into a bit of detail as to which actor we're talking about, because there are really a few camps in the region. Putting Iran aside, you have the Muslim Brotherhood-backed states, which was Turkey and Qatar. And realistically, if they were to get involved in the negotiations, of course, it's debate. It's really doubtful whose side they would be on, because Turkey is benefiting from the Islamic Republic staying in place. So they would have been pursuing their own agenda independent from the United States. We're reaching a point that certain allies do not share the same interests or threats as we do. Which is, on the other hand, you have Oman, which has been more really objective in this scenario. They haven't really been pushing for any stance or policy objective, which is realistically why Tehran also finds them to be desirable, meaning that this allows Tehran to negotiate with the United States more so directly, or at least on the same level. Because if you have other intermediaries come in, such as the Turks, they would want to have a stake in the negotiations. They want to pursue something of their own. When the Omani case, it's probably going to be more, objective. But that said, the venue can only matter so much. It ultimately comes down to what the regime is willing to compromise over. Are they going to go beyond nuclear and actually discuss ballistic missiles and their proxies, or are they going to limit it and again go back to their strategy in the past? If that continues to be the case, then the mediator here can only do so much.
And my last question for you always is essentially, what do we watch for in the next hours and really at this point the next several days?
It's really key to see what they will be negotiating over. Because realistically, this administration does not want to go back to 2015 Obama deal, a scenario in which the regime still was able to enrich uranium and got sanctions relief for it. So it comes down to what they're actually willing to negotiate over. Are they going to give in zero enrichment or not? Are they going to talk about ballistic missiles or not? And that could really shape the tone for the upcoming negotiations, if they're going to be any. Given the successes of Operation Midnight Hammer, we should be building on those achievements. And building on them means that we shouldn't be going back to deals where Tehran had all the upper hand. So it really comes down to those details. But more importantly, also, we want to see more military buildup in the region. If there continues to be negotiations with Jerusalem on how to address the challenge, I think that would be a great sign that things are headed south and we're going to see a larger military campaign that will realistically facilitate a democratic transition of power in Iran, as opposed to the conventional term of regime change that we've seen in Iraq or Afghanistan.
Jonathan, thank you so much, as always, for joining us to discuss this. Anything we missed that you want to make sure that we are talking about here and getting out there before I let you go?
I think one interesting component here is what happened in the Munich Security Conference. So Tehran and the Iranian regime continues to be a main talking point, main issue, policy issue for many. And as we saw the great turnout of Iranian dissidents, the anti-regime activists led by the Crown Prince, that again signals heavily how Iranians view their own future. And it's really about time for Europeans especially to start engaging the opposition. Of course, Europe for the longest time has been appeasing the Islamic Republic, unfortunately, but it seems like things are taking a turn. So again, I think all eyes should be on Munich and the upcoming negotiations in the next few weeks.
Jonathan, thank you so much for being here with us on this Saturday. We definitely appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, want to give you this live look over the White House right now. We know President Trump is not holding any sort of public events this weekend as of now. Now, we know that's changed in the past before at the last minute. So if anything changes and we get public events with the president, we're going to bring those to you in full, commercial free. That's what we do on Live Now from Fox. We're going to head to a quick 2-minute commercial break, but so much more live news on the other side.